Hey y'all, I want to talk about this game called Popslinger. It's made by Funky Can Creative, which as a developer name, that's a fun one to say. And this game's also fun. This has inspirations from kind of older 80s, 90s anime in terms of the look. They even have, as you're playing through a game, like an old school VHS like filter effect, like when you'd be watching a VHS tape and then it starts to like kind of wear itself down a little bit, and then you would have to hit the arrows to kind of get rid of like static on top and the bottom. They have that effect to it as well, which is cool. But I would say though, certain times when you're playing it though, it comes up during like conversations. It can be a little bit distracting because conversations are kind of that visual novel based sort of, where you see the characters on the side and then there's like a screen on the bottom that shows what they're saying, but it is voiceover. The voiceover is real nice. And what kind of game is it? Well, it's a beat 'em up with a gun, which I liked. I never really played too many games like that. You know, you have usually the straight beat 'em ups, and then, you know, sometimes a character might have a weapon or so. You have like a Contra, that sort of thing. It's maybe got a little bit of that in there, but it's kind of its own unique sort of thing, and I really enjoyed a different take on what I would say. I would say it's more like a beat 'em up in the way it moves from screen to screen and that sort of thing. To have one that's just pure gun-based was interesting. As you go through the game, you defeat enemies, and then you get a new gun, basically, at the end of every mission. And the guns do different things, and what's cool is that it's built on like a power-up point system. So with the sludge monsters, when you do the chain attacks, you get an ability that you can use. And you press a button to use like a shield or like a little turret with your companion. That sort of stuff as you go along. So not only are you just shooting stuff, but you have to pay attention into what order you're shooting stuff to get like the best combo. And then at the end of every level, there's usually some sort of boss that you fight, and then you get tally, and you get to see your score of like how many points did you get at the very end. And I thought that was really cool to kind of see that. It gives you motivation. You do get a graded scale like A, B, or C, or D. I got more towards on the C front because it wasn't good. If you're not great with coordination like I am necessarily, you can turn on a mode that makes it easier for you. It's not quite invincibility mode, but you get to take a lot more damage. And for me, playing a bit into it, that definitely helped, because there's a lot you have to dodge, and it can get overwhelming really quick. And the story's interesting. You play the story and kind of see where it goes. The characters are interesting. The one issue I guess I would have with the game overall, though, is that it's a bit repetitive. I mean, a lot of these beat 'em ups kind of are, though, and they're not. And the game isn't that long, which is good. You could finish it in a couple hours pretty quickly. But again, it's more of like, oh, you go, then you fight kind of like a wave of enemies in this big area. Might fight 2 or 3 waves, and then you move on, and then you have a boss fight. And it's kind of like every level's the same thing. Like, as you play it more and more, you kind of can get the sense like, all right, it's gonna be time for this section to pop up at this point, and then it does. So in terms of like the level design, it's pretty similar throughout, so I wish there was a little bit more variety. But they're always introducing new enemies. Sometimes later on, they'll add like a shield, and with the shield, you have to shoot the enemy with a certain gun, and so you have to figure out which gun is appropriate. And all the stuff that shoots out is kind of like water, basically. It's like kind of more like, you know, using those old water guns and actual bullets is what you're using. But, you know, you have one that's a little bit of a more of a pistol, then you have one that's more like a rocket laser and things like that. So there's variety there. Some for me I like better than others, but it's one of those, I think it's just kind of a personal preference sort of stuff, and I like the variety. You could switch between them at any time. And the cool part is that you don't have to worry about running out of ammo. You basically get unlimited ammo for all these weapons because it's more about chaining these attacks. You're constantly shooting, so it's nice not having to worry about ammo. So if you're looking for a fun, quick little game to play, and you like beat 'em ups and you like little shooting games, I definitely recommend it for sure. It's definitely worth checking out.